What's up, Collector fam? I'm back with an unboxed Kraven. Or maybe you know him by his Russian name, Sergei Dmitry Sismoldovich Kravinov, aka Kraven the Hunter, who started out hunting people for sport and now wants to prove that he is the best hunter on the planet by killing the Amazing Spider-Man. First making his appearance in Amazing Spider-Man number 15 in August of 1964, put together by the fabulous combination of Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. He has been one of Spider-Man's earliest foes and persistent foes throughout the ages. Now, let's see if my memory connects enough with this statue to make it worth the purchase. Okay, Collector fam, item number one, and usually the most important on my list is it comic book accurate? And I will tell you to a fault, this sucker matches the comic book. Now, maybe there are some color differences here in what you get from the original comic book, but their variations are slight. So let's go ahead and get into exactly what I mean. Well, Kraven is known to have a lion's mane connected to the face of that lion as the vest that he wears. So you can see here, that part, extremely comic book accurate. And I think they did a fantastic job of detailing the face on the lion itself. It's really good. It's really well done, okay? The lion's mane cuts up and around his back and cuts all the way back to the small of his back, almost back here. You can see just on the opposite side of these bamboo shoots that are up here, okay? Now, if I had to complain, the first thing I would complain about is they did a fantastic job at his head hair. You look at the detail, all right? You can see it looks like different strands of hair all throughout. It's really well done. I don't think they did as much for the lion's mane. So they could have spent a little bit more time in that sculpt, giving me more fine lines of hair, making this softer looking. This does not look like a soft anything I'd want to wear on my back, okay? But that is comic book accurate, so let's keep it going. His head, his hairline, his mustache, eyebrows, all of this orientation of his portrait is very comic book accurate. So comic book, they just bumped the camera there. Do you see that? And that's really cool. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. This piece here around his neck wasn't there originally, which are some claws of a lion that he wears as a necklace, but he has been seen in several comic books with him, okay? He wears a leopard or cheetah skin print along his legs for his bottom half. He's got a zebra belt coordinating. He's coordinating the zebra belt with the zebra cuffs here, the cuff links. You know, he's got these arm pieces that are made of zebra skin as well. And those are comic book accurate as well. So the belt, and with the spikes, of course, and these side wrist armaments here with the zebra skin, along with these cheetah bands that go around the biceps, as you can see them, are all comic book accurate. Okay, down to his little shoe slippers, which I gotta tell you, as comic book accurate as they are, I wish they would have changed. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So, set them back down for a second, and let's go back to item number one. Is this comic book accurate? And this gets a big fat A+.
Yes!
Plus. Comic book accurate. 3 cheeses on that alone. Let's move to the next item. Number two, numero dos. What is the scene that they gave us to work with for this particular character? What are they trying to convey in the scene? Does it match his character? Does it feel dynamic? So let's take a look at some of those things really quick. You can take a look just as much as I can and tell he's in movement, he's in motion. That makes him a more dynamic statue. He's not just sitting there chilling with a spear, talking about, I don't know, the weather with an animal. No, he's in motion. The face that he's making, the portrait that he has, this grimacing face, tells me that he's after something, more likely or not, than to kill it. And he's walking through the jungle. So all of this to his character set would be very accurate. Now let's take a look at how they did with the actual background elements here. Let's take a deep dive. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to slide this in a little closer here so you guys can see the base. Now, one of my pet peeves continues to be that it doesn't matter what superhero or villain, they need rocks. Rocks must be around them in some way, shape, or form, and we didn't miss that mark here. Plenty of rocks. So, okay. Now, in this particular instance, I'm not sure it made that much sense. They should have been other elements inside of the forest. And here's why. He's walking through this forest right now. He just walked through this 5-layer, bamboo shoots that look like they've just been recently cut. But look at how big he is, and look at the gap here. He would have had to slide his butt between these two just to get through. That is an element that is a small thing, but if you're looking at this in terms of detail, it's one I think they missed. Where they did a really good job is if you take a look at some of the plants in here and the detail on that plant life. It is really cool. And the root structure also, and these roots that come up and out of the ground. The grass on the fronts here look like more like moss, I suppose, and they're growing on edges of the rock. But he's walking across them nonetheless. And here is my biggest pet peeve, right there. See if I can show it to you. His knee is traversing this area just above a root where it looks like he's landing right here on that root. I think that was a poor choice. It just doesn't look like an area somebody would be walking through in that way. The stance is fine, but some of the background elements leave something to be desired for me. And of course, because I have a pet peeve, rocks are everywhere. Now the grass on the inside underneath them, again, I think that could use a little bit greater detail. Greater detail in there. You can see my fingers kind of wiggling. You know what it is. It's leaves, it's grass. So I am obviously nitpicking. But since I'm here nitpicking, I might as well nitpick properly. And the reality is, the background leaves a little bit to be desired for me. So I would give that 1.5 cheese. Not exactly 2 cheeses on the background. It wasn't as inventive as I'd like it to be. So that's just where we are. Let's median average how we'll average it out at the end. All right, let's move on to the next thing then, shall we? Okay, third on the list, the details of the make. How is it made? Is it made well? Well, this is a PVC make, not a resin bust, but it's still actually quite heavy. I feel like it's just over a pound. I know I should have weighed it, but it's weighty enough that I'm not worried about it. He's got multiple points of contact down here that you can't see because we have these bamboo shoots that were added later. There's 5 of those plus 2 points of contact for just his feet. So it looks like they gave us one of those nice plates to cover it up so you didn't see all those points of interaction at the base. Plus, it sits really well. It doesn't wiggle or wobble as you set it down, and some statues might have a tendency to be just a hair off where they give you that annoying wiggle. This one doesn't do that. There isn't anything that comes with the statue, a la any additional ornaments, any pieces that could fall off or get lost. There is this one spear element that's here that is being held by his hand, and it's on there really well. Of course, it'll bend if you want it to bend, but I wouldn't recommend you doing that. I'm not sure what the outcome would be. The spear obviously is not sharp, but it looks really cool. It looks like it was made by hand. It looks like an accurate looking spear. If I'm being honest, I don't know what feathers those are. I'm not sure where they're supposed to be. Someone said that that might be the ends of something that was just recently killed. So the spear went through them and the feathers stuck. I potentially could buy that. So it's made really well. You're not going to feel like they cheaped out on the statue in that regard at all. So what's left is for us to discuss some of the detail elements. Where did they succeed and where did they fall down? So let's get into it. Tony the Toy Rat, also the blind rat. So can't see much or do much without my daggone glasses on, especially when we're talking details. Don't give me any crap about it. Here it is. Okay, so in terms of whether they met the mark or not, yes, they met the mark. This absolutely looks like Kraven the Hunter. But if we're getting into the details here, I'm going to give them a couple of dings. Okay, the first of those dings is on this lion's mane. I feel like this part up here, even though it's older hair, should have maintained that sort of golden lion fleece. It does not. And then it sort of gradiates out into a darker part of the lion's mane, which a lion's mane might do. I just feel like they sort of lost some of that appeal. We talked about it earlier. Not enough striations in the hair. Not for me anyway. These look super thick, like someone gelled them into place. I don't want that. I want them to look a little bit more free-flowing. I also think that this vest might have served them better if they made it a separate piece that had some flexibility here in the front. Now I'm going to turn this and wiggle just at the front. You can see where the chest meets the interior part of the vest, but it looks like it just dies off. It looks like it dies off into the vest. And it looks like that on both sides. Like it doesn't continue, like it dies into the vest. So I am absolutely nitpicking, okay? Absolutely. You're looking down at the bottom now of his ab structure, and you'll see a couple of lines on the interior pieces here that look like they just didn't get scraped away. It loses a little bit of that suspension of disbelief for me when reality isn't there. Okay? He's wearing his cheetah pants. They're his patented cheetah pants. We understand his cheetah pants. Here's what I don't get. More like than any other statue that I have in this entire line, and there are now dozens and dozens, this guy is displaying man package more than most. Okay? He is literally bulging at the seams here. I don't know. It just seems like that was an emphasis. I'm not sure that was a great emphasis. These are supposed to be shoes. I don't know why shoes would have any kind of lines like that as they come up on the stretched angle. So the foot is stretched back as he's moving forward. There wouldn't be any of these lines sitting in here. So again, this is minor details, guys, and I know I am complaining about things I probably shouldn't complain about. It is a beautiful piece, all in all. But if we're looking at some of those details, again, we talked about how the knee is being impacted by a stump, and it just doesn't make sense there. This doesn't make sense. And not in that location unless you're trying to hold the figure up for some reason, which I don't think so. On the paint job, they lost it in a couple of tiny areas up here at the top of the brow. They don't finish the hairline. You can see that the eyebrows themselves actually are tailored to just the front of the face, and the top, as they angle around towards the head, are painted in skin color. So I didn't like that as much as well. So there's a couple little dings that I would give them. It's a great piece, guys. He's definitely comic book accurate. Is he worth the money? At $49.99, yes. At $69.99, no. I think we're landing somewhere in between. He is definitely a must-have if you have the Rogues Gallery for Spider-Man. You can't go without Kraven. Okay? That's your fault. You had to have it. But you can't go without Kraven. Okay? And Kraven is awesome as a statue. It does have some dips and things. I think they could have done better in a couple locations. Personally, I might have wanted to see him in a tree getting ready to pounce down. Maybe that's a little taller statue or something in that order of magnitude. Something that's a little sneakier. Something that might have him a little Spider-Man oriented, perhaps. But given the fact that he is supposed to have his backstory in the jungles, killing these animals, which is what he's wearing all over him, I feel like they did the job. So for me, 7 out of 10. This is going to be a 2-cheese statue for me, but I'd also recommend the purchase. So there it is. That's Kraven the Hunter, Tony the Toy Rat, and I'm out.